it's a lot of what it comes down to is the stories we tell ourselves. And, I can go all day on that. It's, perception is interpretation. Well, if you say that my identity is my job, well, then that's the truth to you. And that's not a good or bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that, unless it's preventing you from enjoying life in the present or moving forward to where you want to go. That's when it becomes an issue. Now, when I was 17 years old and I believed I was, I believed I was Junior Seau. I believed I was Reggie White. I believed I was Dermontti Dawson. That was helpful. It was helpful to believe that as a professional football player, that's who I am, that's what I am. It was helpful at that stage when I was still working towards achieving that goal. The thing is, once you've played, however many years professional, you're out of sports, 28, 29, 32 years old, and the future isn't what it was when you were 17. Now that belief becomes a limiting belief. And that if an athlete is what I am the sport that I play, well, then how are you going to find success in this next chapter as a real estate agent? How? You're just a dumb athlete. Now, being colorful saying dumb, but the bottom line is, if I'm bringing athletic strategies into this next business chapter, wouldn't you agree that's pretty dumb strategy?
So, with that right there, I need to I'm going to stop and I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today I am so thrilled to share with you my friend, Chukky. Chukky, tell me how to say your last name, because I say Okobi. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
No, you're saying it right. Don't ever doubt yourself.
Awesome. Love it. Chukky Okobi, who I met in California at NLP Train the Trainer training. And I really connected with you, Chukky, in the back of the room, but I didn't even get to know you till the second week, really, that I was there. But something about you drew me to you. And so I wanted my people to meet you through this podcast. So welcome to Circle Up and Get Real.
Well, it's the first time I've ever been to North Dakota.
Well, you're not here yet. You're coming, but you haven't been here yet.
Well, virtually I'm there. I'm on your computer screen right now. So that counts now. Now that we're living in the technology age. But yeah, we had a really good time. The trainers training with NLP and, really helping other NLP trainers and practitioners to get their desired results in their professional lives and whatever other area you feel could use an improvement. And, it's something that I started doing a long time ago, started applying as an athlete in college, and it took me kind of far. So, but I'm sure we'll get deeper into that.
We will. So let me start by saying Chukky today is a coach and a consultant, but he started his journey. You can tell us more about this, Chukky. He was a college athlete, received a scholarship to Purdue, and then he became an NFL player, which is what he had in his mind for a long time. And so, a lot of us might think, hey, you make the pinnacle when you're 30 years old. Woohoo, I've been a pro athlete. And then what? What happens after that? I'm really impressed with what Chukky's done, as you've created, Chukky, your own company where you actually help people do the things that helped you be successful and achieve the results you wanted. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because when we're young, when we're kids growing up, we all tend to have this vision of what would be the ideal result for my life? Like, what if I could be anything, if I could be, do, or have anything as an adult, what would it be? And a lot of times we see that in children playing make-believe. For me, a lot of different circumstances in life led me to really connect to athletics and sports. And it was less about the pomp and circumstance, the story that we tell about professional sports today. And for me, it was more about feeling self-worth as a kid who was, coming from a troubled home where there's a lot of conflict with my parents not getting along and whatnot, and moving around a lot as a kid. Sports was the one place where I fit in, and I was actually pretty good. So all of a sudden, I was going from being part of a tribe at home where I didn't really feel like I mattered to being somebody of importance. And that really led me to discover, I guess further to simplify what I'm saying, I found really deep self-love. Like I really loved being me when I was playing sports, and it was really all about feeling that passion for life, by bringing value to the group. And all of a sudden, I'm a leader, and so that was a big part of my journey in sports. So, going into high school and through my high school athletic career, didn't have a ton of opportunities. I'm not the tallest guy, I'm not the fastest guy, still pretty good athlete, but maybe not the prototype that a lot of schools are looking for. So I had one scholarship offer, Purdue University, and with that being that I only had one offer, I had a belief, just a belief, that Jim Coletto, who was the head coach at Purdue at the time, was the only coach in the world who thought I was any good, because he's the only one to offer me a scholarship. After my first year, he resigned. And so I started having panic attacks. It was, kind of reliving I suppose, the trauma of my dad leaving. It felt the same in that moment. And I recognized that, I'm here, I have a scholarship to a Big Ten school. I'm on this roster. I've already, been playing football with this varsity team for the last year. So it's time to take advantage of this opportunity. Long story shorter, that's how I ended up discovering NLP back when I was 18, neuro-linguistic programming, and using that to take control of my mental processes, my strategies and emotions. And by taking control of what's going on within me, all of a sudden I felt this deep sense of control over my fate and felt empowered to control what was going on around me, becoming a starter as an 18-year-old freshman and starting 4 years in the Big Ten, and eventually being drafted by my hometown Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure you'd agree that for anybody coming up in sports to be able to be drafted by your hometown team and win a world championship representing the city you were born in would be the ideal result that anyone could hope for. And through NLP and learning what I've learned, starting back then all the way to what I do now with my company, Basic Instructions, it's teaching other people to get what I like to call their Super Bowl result for their life. It may not be football, but everybody has an ideal that they're looking for in their business, in their relationships, their health and fitness, in their relationship with their higher power. Where is it that you would love to feel that level of success, that level of passion and excitement for life? And that's what I help companies and high-level performers to do.
That's such a great story. And you did that so quickly. I just want to go back. You said, I found NLP when I was 18 and it helped me be a starter at a Big Ten university. So I love the story because you told me the story of how you found NLP at that young age. Would you tell that story about the bookstore that you told me?
Absolutely. After Coach Coletto left, he resigned, and, he would eventually go on to coach in the NFL. Excellent coach, excellent human being. And I felt abandoned. And so I was having an emotional difficulty at 18. It seemed like a big crisis. It's how I imagine Dorothy felt when she found herself in Oz. And that's kind of how I felt. Now, having this opportunity, being in a Big Ten school, I realized I have to do something to gain an advantage here in order to make this opportunity to play college football at this level work for me and propel me to the results that I'm looking for in life. And so I remember the first thought that came to my mind was, just go look in the trash. And so it's like the trash, all of a sudden I'm pausing and I say, well, wait a second. What do you mean look in the trash? It's stuff that people don't want anymore. I said, that's it. So what I did was I decided to go to a used bookstore on campus. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew there would be some piece of information in there that the other athletes I was competing against, we're talking Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa, those athletes don't know because I'm looking in the trash. And so I walk in the bookstore, not knowing what I was looking for, and it felt almost as if the book just was jumping off the shelf into my hands. And the title of the book that I found is The Secret to Creating Your Future by Dr. Tad James. And so I said, the secret to creating my future, that's what I want to know. So I grabbed the book and I sat on the dirty floor and I just decided to start going deeper into this, and so that I could get this secret. And as I'm going deeper and reading into it, I realized I don't know what this guy's talking about. I had no clue what he was talking about. I said, maybe this isn't the book for me. So I put it down. And as I'm getting up off the floor, it was one of those, surreal moments where it almost seemed like the title of the book was glowing. And it was like The Secret to Creating a Future. And I just thought how deeply I want this secret. And so I sat down and just kept going deeper and deeper. And I said, it'll make sense eventually. And all of a sudden, it's like a light bulb went off. And I said, I think I get it. What this guy is saying is that your world is not actually outside. It's not out there. Your world is actually in your mind. It's just an internal representation, or in basic instructions terms, a picture in your mind based on the sensory data that you took in through your optic nerve, through your nervous system, things you heard, things you saw, things you felt. And with this neuro-linguistic, I didn't know how to say it back then, but neuro-linguistic programmer, NLP, thinking about NLP, with NLP, you can actually control the processes in your mind. So my logic at 18 was, okay, if my world is in my mind and with NLP, I can control my mind, then by learning NLP, I can control my world. And that's what I did. And so, there's a whole lot of story there, playing 5 years, the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten championship and playing in the NFL for 8 years. There's a whole lot of story. Well, since we only have a limited amount of time, I guess you'll have to see me when I come to North Dakota to hear
I love it. I love it. I love it. So I love that you can tie it all back. I love that you remember it, that glowing. I mean, I'm going to believe that you saw it glow because there was something that was pulling you to this information. And the cool part of that story too, that we both know, is Dr. Tad James, who was the author of that book, is the father of the guy who is running the company that you and I are part of now, Empowerment Inc. So it's no accident at all. Or maybe it's completely a coincidence, right? Coincident happening at the same time that you and I came together there, that you were attracted to that information, that I'm attracted to that information, and that we both see there is a world out there that could benefit from what we know.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing with, Dr. Matt James, Dr. Tad James, the James family, it's a lineage, in the Western society paradigm, we don't really talk about lineage as much, although you see it, and you see it in sports, you see it in politics, people who come from a political family or an athletic family. And I mean, everyone from George W. Bush to Patrick Mahomes, we're talking about lineages. And so what we're talking about is a personal development lineage that, started before Tad James, and he found himself in what many might consider a coincidence, in that he was tasked to carry on these learnings to empower the planet, to understand that each one of us is in control of our world because it's not out there, it's inside. And so there's nobody else inside but you, I hope. And if you recognize that, you realize you're the narrator of this story that is your life. And so if you take control of the story, or, another way of saying story is your interpretations. If you take control of your interpretations of what you're experiencing, then essentially you empower yourself to be in control of the results. And no matter how big they might seem, the way I always like to look at it is one of the things that I learned through learning from, doctors James, Matt, and Tad, is don't put any limits on what you want, because if you put a limit on it, remember, you're the narrator. So if you put a limit there, well, then it's your reality, it's your interpretation, it's your story. Do you like that limit? No. So I remember asking myself, well, what do you want? It's like, man, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to play in the NFL. After moving away from Pittsburgh and moving around a lot as a kid, all I ever wanted to do was go home. I remember telling myself as a kid, someday when I make it, I'm going to come back to Pittsburgh. Little did I know, by holding that internal representation of pro sports Pittsburgh, pro sports Pittsburgh, pro sports Pittsburgh from about age 7 all the way to when I was drafted at 22, by controlling my focus and my thoughts in my mind, the rest is history. And so the question each one of us has to ask is, what is it that I don't know, that if I did know, would make getting exactly what I want as simple as clicking your heels 3 times and going home.
That's so great. When you and I met, we were talking about stories and metaphors.
Mhm.
And when you're aware in your life of the stories, because you said there's a lot of story in what you said about, your journey. When you're aware and you can look back on some of those stories, do you find that the yellow brick road was there all the time? It's just that you didn't notice it till you look back?
Yeah, precisely. I mean, you're spot on. The thing is, what we know through NLP, what we've learned through Empowerment Inc. and Dr. Matt about perception is interpretation. Perception is interpretation. I know a lot of people who are not familiar with NLP, it probably sounds complex. Well, it's jargon. And so for those of us who know NLP, it makes perfect sense. So allow me to put it into what I call basic instructions lingo, or taking the jargon of our industry and putting it into what I call NFL, normal functioning language. What perception is interpretation means is perception. And feel free to fact check me in the dictionary. The word perception simply means to become aware of something through your 5 senses. I saw something, I heard something, I felt something. That's all that word means. Or smell or taste, but we're not dogs. But we'll get into the dog thing in a little bit. Well, that's just becoming aware of something through the 5 senses. I felt something, I saw something, I heard something. Interpretation means the action of giving meaning to that which I perceive. So in NFL or basic instructions lingo, perception is interpretation means my life is whatever story I tell about it. It's funny you use the word coincidence. And I love that word, linguistic. I'm a linguistics, professional. So the thing about coincidence is to putting a label on some sort of synchronicity that you recognize, that you perceive and interpret in your environment. The funny thing about it is people will write things off as a coincidence, but the fact that you put a label on it makes it significant. The fact that you recognize the connection means that it's significant. So every coincidence is actually very, very significant. It's not random. There's no such thing as random, if you will. And so, the big thing is just recognizing that if you know what's going on under the hood, any minor changes that you can make on your own to get this movie, this story, this machine that is you to operate more efficiently, then you can do that. That's not to say that if I knew everything that was going on under the hood of a car, I wouldn't need mechanics anymore. I may not be able to rebuild a transmission, but I can change wires, I can change an alternator, I can change a battery, I can change spark plugs, I can do all the things that any person could essentially do to make sure that their vehicle is operating as best as it can. And that's where, what I do comes in, is being able to recognize where you can use the change, where these limits are coming into your consciousness, into your story, and it's, what can I do to fix this, change this, or get whatever limit I've created out of my own way to get exactly what I want.
So given that you've talked a little bit about your clients in a way, who's your favorite group or person, or even a story that you could share about some success that you've been able to witness because of the work you do?
With a client?
Yeah.
I'll tell you 2. First, I'll talk to you about, learning that NLP back. We're talking about 1997 is when I first came across it and into the NFL. It was my secret power. It wasn't one of those things I shared in the locker room or not directly anyway.
Yeah.
I may share some insight, but I don't necessarily tell people where it's coming from.
Right.
And, took me all the way to NFL. So here we are in the 2005 NFL season. And Steelers, we were actually the favorites to win the Super Bowl that year. And if you go to Wikipedia now and say, okay, who won the Super Bowl in 2005? It's just going to give you a name, Pittsburgh Steelers. But there's a story there that's you're not necessarily going to find unless you were there and experienced them. So in that season, we were the favorites going in. At some point during the season, we had lost 3 consecutive games. And if we lost one more, we were mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, and winning the Super Bowl was no longer a possibility. So all of a sudden, people are panicking again, like Dorothy and Oz. It's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so I really thought Coach Cowher would come in and give it to us for not playing well enough. But what he said in this meeting changed everything. And it was one of those moments where I could see the synchronicity in the coach that was coaching me in this moment and all this wisdom I was learning from, NLP and from the James family. And so Coach Cowher comes in, puts down his notebook. He looks at us and he said, guys, when you think about where you are right now in this season, realize that you don't know what you don't know. And believe it or not, it's what you don't know that you don't know that's running the show right now called your career and your life. So think about this for a moment, fellas. Since you don't know what you don't know, how do you know what you believe you do know is right? Don't answer me now. Just relax and consider what I'm saying. You don't know what you don't know. And he proceeded to fill in a blank that was so obvious that it made it easy for us to do what we needed to do to eventually become world champions in that season. And, it goes back to recognizing that the world is made up of dichotomies. You can't have one side without the other. Every time any circumstance or anything's created in this world, there's a positive and negative side to it. No good, not good and bad, just positive and negative, like a battery. Mm-hmm. And so think about this. They said, if you lose one more game, you're not going to make the playoffs. What else does that mean? That means that if we just win every game, that we're world champions.
Right.
Now, which story are you going to subscribe to? And that's the simplicity of the point that he made. And there's a reason this coach is in the Hall of Fame now, is recognizing that we are in charge. If you control what's going on inside you, your thoughts, your interpretations of stories, and most importantly, your emotions in this moment, when you're faced with a situation that seems scary, if you take control, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about. So that, that's a situation where this training that I do now for companies, executives, and, entrepreneurs, and help them to take control of their world to get their Super Bowl result. When I think about clients, a couple of people come to mind. I had a client in Sydney, Australia, doing a lot of coaching, via Zoom and the internet nowadays. And a young man, very successful at a very young age. He was 28. His company was already worth about $150 million. And a lot of times people go, oh, that's great. That's success. Yes. Awesome. However, this was one of the most unhappy, angry people I'd ever met. And so a lot of times when you look at the surface, the things that, individuals show the world, it's like we live in a Facebook world where people are just showing you the highlights, the positive aspects of what's going on, but it's like Tony Robbins says, who is probably the most famous name in NLP. Yeah. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And so helping him to regain control of his emotional faculties, to let go of different traumas he had, losing his mother at a young age and other aspects of life, And all of a sudden, the success that he's seeing on the bottom line starts to spill over into his relationships. It starts to spill over into his physical health. It starts to spill over to the point where that vibration, $150 million at 28, I would consider that a Super Bowl result.
Yeah.
But what if you could feel that not just in that one area of life, but what if you just felt that way about being you? What if you just felt that way in everywhere you look? The story you're telling is, gosh, I'm so grateful for this. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to wake up tomorrow and live another day as me. And so all of a sudden, 150 million in 2020, all of a sudden 2022, through everything, is increased by 40, 50%. Why? Because he's spiraling upwards as a human being, not just on the bottom line, but just as a human being.
Yeah, man, those are great stories. And not stories only, they are truths that you are relaying. I'm curious about the one in 2005 in the locker room at the time, when I'm betting the feeling wasn't positive, because I'm betting you probably thought you were going to get your lunch handed to you by the coach, because that's what happens when you lose or fail, typically. The fact that you remember it so vividly now must have made a big impression on you back then. Did you know it at the time?
Well, I knew that I was about to become enlightened in some way. How? I didn't know exactly how. I mean, I learned so much through my college football experience, helping Purdue University to turn that program around, playing center for a Heisman Trophy candidate in Drew Brees, and witnessing a lot of positive things, eventually winning a Big Ten championship my senior year. The thing is, I still didn't know what I didn't know. Is no matter how much success I had at that level, what don't I know? I'm encountering a situation that I had never been in before. And we're looking at a coach who has extensive experience coaching in the NFL, playing in the NFL, who's about to teach me something that I don't know, essentially give me the basic instructions as to how to get what I want. And, it goes back to that Wizard of Oz, analogy. It's really Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, if you're familiar with that. And, but looking at it through the Wizard of Oz application of the hero's journey, to just make it succinct, Dorothy had the power the whole time. We know that. What was she missing? She didn't know that she didn't know.
Yeah.
The basic instructions of how the inherent power that she possessed already works. All she was missing was the instructions. So for individuals, entrepreneurs, people who are in charge of the thinking for everybody involved in their company or in their family or on their team, and you feel that frustration, like, I don't know what to do. I'm in a crisis. Well, who's going to save me? Remember, there's no Wizard of Oz. You saw the movie.
Yeah.
So the thought process that, I formulated the discipline back when I was in college and really developed that through all the years playing sports is, what one piece of information do I not know that I don't know? That if I did know, this circumstance would look simple. If she knew that one piece of information, click 3 times, there's no crisis. And so that goes for all of us. What don't you know that you don't know? Now, learning from somebody like Bill Cowher, having played with some people who are the best at what they do, people like Drew Brees and Troy Polamalu and Alan Faneca and Jerome Bettis and Larry Fitzgerald and people like that, who all of a sudden you look at what they've accomplished and you're like, wow, that's amazing. They're human beings. I've seen them in the shower. They are human beings.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. What's stopping you from achieving your Super Bowl level result in your business or in your life? And so that's the big thing, is opening yourself up instead of saying, yeah, I know. I'm sure you do know, but what don't you even know that you don't know? And getting curious about, what can I learn from this person that could blow all limitations that I perceive completely out of the water?
That's so good. I love that you said that. And I love how you kind of tied it back together to my original question, which was if we're identifying ourselves as what we do when we are an athlete or when we are a doctor, or when we are a teacher or even a parent, and then that shifts from something that we can create or control or something we can't, that can be an identity crisis for people. There is no Oz, right? Or wizard, right? There's no,
Wizard.
and in that space, then you are demonstrating what is possible when you take your mind with you. You know, outside circumstances don't matter when you have at least the awareness of what's inside.
Mm-hmm.
So when you work with people, do you work with a lot of athletes who are now no longer active in their athletic pursuits?
Yeah, that's a big part of what I do, is helping people transition from one way of engaging their world, you know, particularly in the professional sense, to being able to preserve the learnings from, you know, a life of excellence and success. And how can I recreate success in a different context, in a different area? And so, you know, with a lot of times with athletes, especially, you know, former NFL athletes, you talk, you know, you have to factor in nowadays what we know about head trauma, the cognitive and emotional issues that come with just identity crisis in general, coupled with the physical toll that it takes, that football and sports in general take on a human body. And all of a sudden you spend your entire life focusing on being the best lacrosse or hockey or tennis player that you can be. And one day something happens, whether it's because of lack of opportunity, because of physical ailments, or just because you're getting older and new competitions coming into your field. So you find yourself in a situation where all of a sudden you wake up and it's like, there's no practice today. You wake up, there's no game on Sunday. And you got to understand, your mind is already trained into that pattern. So all of a sudden it can feel like Dorothy landing in Oz. Yeah. It's like, what am I going to do? I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do with myself because I'm so used to doing things one way. The thing is, if you were able to make it to the NFL, if you were able to develop the successful strategies to get you your desired results in a field that is so difficult to find success in, then what makes you think that you're not able to find success in business? Because there's a lot more people doing business. There's a lot more people making millions of dollars who've never played a down of football. And you did something that 1% of the 1% can do, only 1% of the 1%. That's a testament to who you are, regardless of sports, regardless of whatever you believe your identity is. Whatever you believe you are, you're so much more than that. And so why would I limit myself to saying playing football, entertaining people on Sundays in this way is all the value I have to bring to the world? I beg to differ. You don't know what you don't know. And so let's learn the basic instructions of what's going on inside so that the magic you created in the NFL, let's create that magic again.
This is so good. Chukky, who's your favorite client? Like if you could decide a certain kind of person you'd like to work with, is it a specific person? Is it a team? What do you prefer?
You know, working one-on-one, I love working with entrepreneurs and with executives, people who are leading other people who have to think on their own. And the quality of their thoughts, strategies, ideas, and habits have a direct effect, not only on their team, but on their community, on a greater population than just themselves. And I really like working with people who, you know, want to learn how to master what's going on within them. Because you want to change what's going on around you, you got to learn the basic instructions of what's going on within you. And when you know, it's not difficult unless that's how you interpret it. It's understanding that, it's not hard, I just don't know, which then puts me into a state of curiosity. It's like, you know, you got a coach here who's reached that Super Bowl level of success. Damn, I would really love to do that in my business. but I don't know this, I don't have this resource, I've never done this before, all I've ever done is play sports. Well, what if you're wrong?
Yeah.
What if that story is the one thing we got to get rid of? And if you stop playing that record in your mind, you'll see, oh yeah, just the same way I won that Super Bowl, I can get this done. I can get this proposal accepted. I can sell this house. I can be a better father or mother. And so to me, those are the people that I really like to work with, especially, those who have familiarity with NLP. And because it's a language, it's the language of the mind. It's not complex, but when you have this background, a frame of reference for what I'm talking about right now, I'm sure you can imagine how whatever results I'm getting in my business, I don't know what I don't know about how much better I can be. And, as for, a lot of coaches, entrepreneurs who are creating their own businesses, who, are scratching their heads wondering, am I making a mistake here? Could it be that all you need is somebody who's been to the mountaintop to show you the shortcut? Actually, I wouldn't necessarily call it a shortcut, but the most direct way.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, Chukky, how would they best do that? How can people find you?
Well, the website, basicinstructions.com. There's 4 basic instructions, so make sure there's an S at the end of that, basicinstructions.com.
Okay.
And then, social media, LinkedIn is always the best place to connect, as far as business goes. I have pretty strong presence on Facebook and, the other main social media outlets, Twitter and Instagram. I'm there, not necessarily where I hang out the most.
Okay.
So, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the website, basicinstructions.com are probably the best ways. Also, in this day and age where everyone's carrying a computer their whole life in their pocket,
Right.
To connect via text or just call me on the phone is perfectly fine. That's area code 412-401-5674, and just reach out. And I could talk about this stuff all day, and I would love the opportunity to explore, whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish in your business or in your life.
I love it. Chukky, this has been a joy and just the beginning of conversations that I know you and I are going to have as we go. So thank you for being with me today. And as always, everybody, go be real. Talk to you soon. Okay, I'm going to keep it recording because I also want to talk about January. So you alluded earlier to coming to Fargo, Chukky. What was that all about?
I have a feeling that there's somebody up there that needs me.
I think there's a lot of people up here that need you. And I love that you told me when we met that I think I'm the only person you know from North Dakota.
Yeah, I thought it was like Narnia. I didn't know it was a real place.
That's so funny. So we're doing an event in January. Why would people come to Fargo in January? That's nuts. That's crazy. Because they won't come anyway. I mean, they won't come in the summer, so why not make it a destination for the winter? That's what we're going to be doing in January. Chukky's going to be our keynote speaker, and we're having an event called Chill Out. What better way to chill out than to come to Fargo in January? And so, Chukky, I'm going to put you in touch with a lot of entrepreneurs and sports teams, whoever we can get you in front of. We want you to be able to share some wisdom and some basic instructions with them. So we're really excited. Have you thought at all about what some of that messaging might be? Is it any different than what we've just talked about?
Well, I mean, to me, it's along the same lines. And the biggest thing is to recognize that whatever you think you can't get past, or whatever the limits you think are there, remember, everything's a dichotomy. So whatever disadvantage you think you have, it's a matter of uncovering, shining a light on, or just discovering what advantages you actually do have, what things are working in your favor that you can easily access and apply whatever learning that you get to catapult you forward towards exactly what you want. And, so much of it comes down to understanding just the human existence. And, so much of what we're not necessarily presented with in our environments and in the typical paradigm of day to day. We get so caught up in, the specifics of our particular industry, the jargon, the paradigm, what, other people said, how we interpreted other people and comparing ourselves to them. And it's like, well, wait a second, there's nobody inside but you.
Yeah.
And so it's about understanding the basic instructions of yourself, not just in terms of the algorithm, like, okay, do this way, you'll make this much money, you'll get this many clients. Yeah, there's some of that. Those are just, structure to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about understanding the basic instructions of yourself from a spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical level, so that you can use 100% of the resources that you possess to click 3 times and get exactly what you want.
Love it. So details are coming. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Make sure you are here in Fargo in January to hear Chukky among other people helping us chill out, because if we're on the treadmill forever and we never take a break and we never breathe, we're going to break. We're going to burn out. We're going to kill ourselves. So we need to chill out. We're going to do that in Fargo in January, and Chukky will be here. Looking forward to seeing you. Thanks, everybody.
It's going to be big.